All right, guys, it looks like we are live. Come on in, one and all. Great to have you here. Let me know that the sound is all right, of course. Hey, John Joe 220, hello. Nick W, this is unfortunate. Yeah, we're going to be talking about it. The conviction is actually a bit strange, finding him guilty on all counts. The counts, as I see it, is a bit, they're mutually exclusive. So We'll have to see if this is just how kangaroo courts work, right? But come on in. We'll chat about it. Ethanol, you say, I hope they appeal already. They're talking about that. That's, as a matter of fact, the judge brought that up in the case that Chauvin has a very strong basis for appeal. It's just going to be the question of whether or not we're going to have juries or judges who are willing to stand up to the mob, as it were. But come on in, gang. Let's talk about the Derek Chauvin verdict that was just handed down literally minutes ago. As we all assemble here, before we get started, I do want to invite you guys to an exclusive live online Q&A for this Thursday night, April 22nd. It's 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to talk more about the Derek Chauvin trial, and we're going to talk about any and all things in our nation and around the world that you're concerned about. It's a censorship-free zone where you get to discuss anything you want. You have direct access to me to ask your questions. We have a serious discussion on the issues that concern you most. We hold these live Q&As every Monday night and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time. They're also recorded, so if you miss it, you can see it later. And we also have some of the most exciting leaders in the new conservative patriot movement that's going on all over the world coming in as our guests. Thanks, Gerald. Yeah, the jury didn't show any courage today, that's for sure. We'll be talking about that. In a sense, it's almost like, who could blame them, for heaven's sakes, right? So anyway, this is exclusive for our Insiders Club members. And if you're not a part of our Insiders Club, all you got to do is just click on the link below, sign up. It's real easy. And as a special incentive, you get your first week absolutely free. So you can try it out, see if you like it. IOC cut prices. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the super chat. Forgive me. But anyway, if you don't like it, no obligation. You can cancel at any time. Our Insiders Club really is your backstage pass to having direct access to these amazing leaders. We've had Sebastian Gorka and Andy No and a bunch of other people of late. So make sure to click on the link below, become an Insiders member with your first week absolutely free. And I'll see you Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we can talk about these things directly with each other for our live Q&A. I think you could absolutely love it. Again, censorship-free zone. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. So obviously, Derek Chauvin has been convicted. The jury which consisted of 6 whites and 6 blacks or multiracial people. Yeah, so I'm sorry. Again, these go so fast, and I forgot to set it at a slower one. So someone just said in the super chat, and thank you for that, for $5. You know, I could see the manslaughter. I could see one charge, but all 3, they seem to be for different things. And so it's I mean, it seems like the jury kind of just basically pleaded with mobs, don't burn our houses down. But regardless, I think in the end, they found Chauvin guilty of all charges. So their houses are not going to be blown up. He was guilty of 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter with George Floyd in May of 2020. Now, we'll go over each of the differences in these charges, but suffice to say, again, I really don't see how he can be guilty of all 3. I'm not a legal expert, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I can follow arguments, and I am frankly dumbfounded over how he can be found guilty of these charges that are quite differentiated from one another. But many are breathing a sigh of relief, obviously, today. The whole nation has been on edge with this verdict, which that alone tells you something. It's no way to hold a trial that's free from mob rule, right? Local media's reported that upwards of 3,000 National Guard troops have been deployed in Minneapolis. Businesses are boarded up and throughout the Hennepin County government center near the building there. Minneapolis public schools are all online learning until next week. I mean, this is what you get when you have mayors and city councils deliberately abdicating their law enforcement responsibilities like they did over the summer in Minneapolis. In fact, don't forget the Minneapolis City Council unanimously voted to abolish the police force. Of course, they had to reverse that decision after crime went through the roof and surged in that city like never before. Surprise, surprise. Moreover, before the verdict was read, even the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, who was once the best friend of Antifa and is now their sworn enemy, he had to declare a state of emergency in his dilapidated city, saying that the National Guard was on standby. But I don't think anything's going to be different in Portland. They're just going to riot like they always do every night. So they don't need an occasion for it. So while found guilty, nevertheless, it does look increasingly likely, we'll have to see, but it does look increasingly likely that Chauvin is going to be able to get this case thrown out on appeal. Okay. Obviously, we're going to have to see how things play out here. But Alan Dershowitz said it best. This wasn't just a thumb on the scale of justice in this case. This was an entire elbow. Okay. What is it? Pile driver in WWE talk. Even the judge in the case stated that with Maxine Waters' comments and even Biden's bumbling today, his mumbling, this conviction could easily get overturned. Who knows? Perhaps the strategy as far as the jury was concerned, I'm not saying they thought the strategy out, but it's and perhaps an inadvertent strategy was convict Chauvin now. So I actually have a home to go back to that's not in flames. Convict Chauvin now and avoid the mass carnage of riots that would have resulted if he was acquitted. And then, months from now, let another jury or another court process or a judge quietly overturn the case on appeal, right? We'll see how things shake out. But that may be what's going on here, at least in terms of some semblance of inadvertent strategy there on the part of the jurors. In review, I think the prosecution employed an interesting strategy in all of this. Originally, the prosecution only gave actually the jury two choices to find Chauvin guilty. They had a choice between second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, almost like bookends. Second-degree murder requires prosecutors to prove that Chauvin intended to harm George Floyd. He didn't premeditate the murder. That would be first degree. But once the situation arose, Chauvin deliberately intended to take Floyd out in some way, shape, or form. In other words, Chauvin killed Floyd in the process of actually perpetrating another felony, right? By contrast, second-degree manslaughter involved jurors concluding that Chauvin caused Floyd's death through negligence. And it's a negligence where the perpetrator consciously took the chance of causing severe injury or death. I don't know how you convict a person on both. Now, as I understand it, most legal analysts saw this case as best suited for a second-degree manslaughter conviction. In other words, Chauvin didn't show up basically seeing Floyd and then wanting to kill him. Chauvin just in the process was reckless, and he caused severe injury in the whole as it was working itself out in his recklessness. But what the prosecution did later is they fought to restore a third-degree murder claim, to give the jury another option for a compromised verdict. I think they're shocked that all three charges have been that Chauvin was found guilty on all three cases. So while the second-degree murder involves killing another person as you commit another felony, the third-degree murder charge that they fought for and got in requires a showing that Chauvin perpetrated, and I have the quote here from the law, and quote, an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life, close quote. So as it turns out, I mean, Chauvin was found guilty in all three cases, which frankly, again, I just don't understand. I don't understand how you're guilty of mutually exclusive counts. But then again, this is, thank you, Gerald. Thank you. Secessionism is imminent. So that should have been the headline of the video. Yeah, Chauvin found guilty. Texit is inevitable. Something akin to that, right? Oh, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays itself out. Sorry, guys, these are moving too fast. I forgot to slow it down. But anyway, you guys are awesome. Please, thank you for all the super chats. I really appreciate it. So he was found guilty in all three charges. But as I said, that's how a kangaroo court can operate, right? When all is said and done for the prosecution, the video was the star witness. That was widely acknowledged on all sides. The prosecution highlighted the video. It's very interesting, kind of. It has a little bit of we could bounce off on that, a commentary on the power of video today. But it's pretty clear why it played such a prominent role. A number of surveys found that the clip of Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck for the 9 minutes influenced public opinion, long before the trial started. Interestingly enough, though, that public opinion started to wane a bit. We did a video right when the Chauvin trial began. And we pointed out there was a USA Ipsos poll that came out just before the trial. I think it was the day they were doing jury selection. And it showed a dramatic shift in opinion over George Floyd. Do you guys remember that? It was in June of last year. So when, like, kind of the height of all this stuff, he died at the end of May. 60% of the population described Floyd's death as a murder. Okay, in June of 2020. As of the beginning of this trial, with that USA Today Ipsos poll found that only 36% believe it was murder. So the percentage dropped by almost half. And there's some obvious reasons why the public's perception changed on this. That we have the leaked body cam footage that showed that Floyd was acting highly erratically. He was resisting arrest. The toxicology report from the autopsy came out, showed fatal levels of fentanyl, along with very high levels of other drugs in his system, which may have caused his death. We know Floyd has a shocking history of criminal activity and violence, including at least one incident pointing a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach, right, while demanding drugs and money. So maybe that's what changed their opinion. Certainly, obviously, didn't change the jury's opinion. And that was the defense's strategy. And I appreciate my namesake, Jonathan Turley, a law professor at George Washington University, and his assessment of the defense, which he said was very good. And I certainly agree. I mean, kudos to that. I think Derek Chauvin's defense team did an excellent job. What they did is they pointed out that the autopsy, the official autopsy, did not conclude that Floyd died of asphyxiation. It found cardiopulmonary arrest while being restrained by law enforcement officers. But the criminal complaint against Chauvin, the state's criminal complaint against Chauvin, said that the autopsy, quote, revealed no physical findings that support a diagnosis of traumatic asphyxia or strangulation. So Mr. Floyd's underlying health issues, including coronary artery disease, hypertensive heart disease, he was COVID-19 positive, just his own physical state could have contributed to his death easily. And then Andrew Baker, Hennepin County's chief medical examiner, he strongly suggested that the primary cause of death was a huge amount of fentanyl in Floyd's system. He said that the autopsy revealed no physical evidence suggesting that Floyd died of asphyxiation. The toxicology report did show that Floyd's blood had almost 4 times the level of fentanyl considered potentially lethal. And Floyd notably repeated that he couldn't breathe even while sitting in the police cruiser and before he was ever restrained. And that's consistent apparently with the level of fentanyl in the system that can be that can cause slowing breathing or stopping the breathing altogether. And the restrainment used by Chauvin's knee on an uncooperative suspect was part, for right or for wrong, it was part of the training of officers. He was not doing anything exceptional there. And as I understand, the jurors did watch a training video employed by the same type of restraint as official policy. So in other words, he was just following the rules. So the defense put together a very, very strong case. But when all is said and done, in many respects, the concern now is that this really was, in the end, just a de facto kangaroo court. When all is said and done, the pressure, the overwhelming public pressure for this jury to come back with a guilty verdict was utterly enormous. Our political class, our permanent political class, the Democrats, the media elite, our Hollywood and entertainment elite, they all together unilaterally condemned Chauvin before a single argument was presented in court, which meant that in many respects, at least for our permanent political class, right, this was nothing more than a kangaroo court. The verdict had already been predetermined before a single argument was made, which of course fits with their effort at trying to pack the Supreme Court, which would in effect make the Supreme Court nothing more than an ideological rubber stamp of all things leftist and cultural Marxist. Fortunately, they're failing big time at that. The support just isn't there for it. I should note, before we move on, I should note for those of you, a lot of you, oh, great. Wow, I just noticed that 5,400. Hey, guys, welcome. For those of you who just joined us, you are all invited to a live Q&A this Thursday night, April 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk more about this and all kinds of other things going on in our nation and around the world. This is a censorship-free zone. Our live Q&As where you get direct access to me. You get to ask your questions from the comfort of your own home. And we have a serious discussion of the issues that are important to you. We have some awesome guests as well that come on. Sebastian Gorka, Andy No, a number of other awesome patriots who are the movers and shakers of the patriotic movement going on throughout the world. We hold, you get direct access to them as well. You can ask them your questions. We hold these live Q&As every Monday night and Thursday night, but they're only for our Insiders Club members. And if you're not a part of my Insiders Club, all you got to do is just click on the link below and you can join. And as a special incentive, you're going to get your first week absolutely free. You get to try it out, right? Get to test drive it, as it were. Of course, we'd love for you to stay, but no obligation. If it's not for you, you can cancel anytime, and it's absolutely free. So our Insiders Club is your backstage pass to having direct access to some of the most amazing leaders in the worldwide patriotic movement. So make sure to click on that link below, become an Insiders member, get your first week absolutely free. And I'll see you Thursday night, 8 o'clock sharp Eastern Time, so we can talk more about this and field your questions directly via our Zoom link. And if you miss it, you can also watch it. They are recorded as well. That's one of the benefits. All right, let's get back here. So speaking of a kangaroo court, now, Fox News reported that towards the end of the trial, defense attorney Eric Nelson voiced significant concern about the impartiality of the jury, given all the media attention the case has received, the way the media has been a cheerleader for the prosecution. Who was that crazy lady, Alcindor, on PBS? Who had the gall, she had the unmitigated gall to say something like, I talked about it in our earlier video today. What did she say? The defense said that George Floyd had drugs in his system, and there are all these other things that could have caused his death, and it was not Derek Chauvin. what they said directly contradicted what the prosecution said, which was Derek Chauvin is the one who killed him. And you could tell everyone just kind of sitting at the table going, that's what the defense is supposed to do. The defense argues against the prosecution. The defense contradicts the prosecution. I mean, this woman is so caught up in her cultural Marxism. This is the same woman, if you saw that kangaroo court. I'm sorry, kangaroo court. I'm getting my metaphors mixed up. That kabuki theater that was otherwise known as a press conference for Biden, where, you know, all the questions were scripted and he knew them ahead of time and he actually read his answers. She's the one who stood up and said, Mr. President, Mr. Biden, you know that hundreds of thousands of people are coming to our border because you're a morally decent man. You know that. That's Alcinder's her last name. I forget her first name. Absolutely absurd and pathetic. So Eric Nelson, the attorney for Derek Chauvin, I mean, he said, brought up to the judge, this has got to be a mistrial. How could this jury possibly be impartial with that kind of coverage? And he also cited comments from Representative Maxine Waters of California, affectionately known as Mad Max, who, of course, incited violence, right, in her comments over the weekend, which were basically threats of civil unrest unless the jury handed down a guilty verdict. And keep in mind, too, don't forget, I mean, all that in many ways is just the tip of the iceberg. Don't forget, this entire trial was held in the shadow of the city of Minneapolis announcing a $27 million settlement in a civil suit brought by George Floyd's family. I mean, Chauvin hadn't, as an employee of the city, Chauvin hadn't even been found guilty yet, and the city already decided to admit guilt and award the Floyd family tens of millions of dollars. And so obviously Chauvin's lawyer, Eric Nelson, who did a very good job representing Chauvin, he publicly questioned to the judge how a jury in Minneapolis could be objective and neutral with all those threats being lobbied at them and all that pressure. And then he pointed out that we now have a U.S. representative actually threatening acts of retaliation in this case. The jury reached a verdict that demurred from the kangaroo court verdict that had already predetermined guilt before a single argument was made. And while the judge in the case was sympathetic to those concerns, and he certainly reprimanded Waters' comments, and he called those comments, in his words, disrespectful to the rule of law and the judicial branch, given how cowardly the judiciary's been, by the way. I mean, what do you expect? Who's going to be afraid of him at this point? Nevertheless, he did ultimately deny the defense's request to declare a mistrial, which for me, frankly, is too bad. You know, I mean, can you imagine if today's headline was, mistrial due to Maxine Waters' comments? Can you imagine Maxine Waters actually causing a mistrial? So the judge does believe, though, he did state this, that Maxine Waters' comments and then Biden's comments today may yet result in precisely that. He said that it certainly gave the defense grounds for appeal, very good grounds for appeal that may indeed result in this whole trial being overturned. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But again, I think that's not just wishful thinking. That is the assessment coming from the judge in this trial. But as of today, the jury has handed down its verdict. Derek Chauvin is guilty on all charges. Again, how that works itself out, I have no idea. We're going to have to find out as things flesh themselves out. So with that said, gang, let's see how things work out tomorrow and Thursday. And please join me for our Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live Q&A. By simply clicking on that link below and signing up for Insiders Club and getting your first week absolutely free. We're going to talk about the Chauvin trial, and we're going to talk about all other things in the nation and the world that you're interested and concerned about. It is a censorship-free zone where you get direct access to me and some of the movers and shakers of the Patriot movement all over the world. You're going to enjoy getting access to our special guests. They're absolutely awesome. So all you got to do is just click on that link below, become an Insiders member. You get your first week absolutely free, no obligation. And I'll see you Thursday night at 8 p.m., which promises to be a really, really neat discussion. We talk for about an hour and a half. It'll be really in-depth and fruitful. So see you 8 p.m. Eastern time for our live Q&A. I think you're going to absolutely love it. All right, guys, God bless. You're awesome. Thank you so much for all your support. Keep the faith, and I'll see you tomorrow on YouTube and Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time for our live Q&A. Love you guys. God bless.